ever heard of the saying, the writing is on the wall? It's a phrase we use all the time, but did you know it comes from a dramatic, real life story in the Bible? Let's dive into the fascinating and cautionary tale of a king named Belshazzar. So, who was this guy? Belshazzar was the last king of Babylon, one of the most powerful empires in the ancient world. The book of Daniel, chapter 5, introduces us to him. Now, technically, historical records show his father, Nabonidus, was the primary king, and Belshazzar served as his co-regent, ruling from the capital city of Babylon itself. But for all intents and purposes, he was the man in charge on the ground. The story kicks off with Belshazzar throwing a massive, wild party for 1,000 of his nobles. He's feeling pretty good about himself, and in a moment of extreme arrogance, he decides to do something incredibly disrespectful. He orders his servants to bring out the sacred gold and silver goblets that his predecessor, Nebuchadnezzar, had looted from the temple in Jerusalem years before. These weren't just fancy cups. They were holy items dedicated to the worship of God. But Belshazzar didn't care. He and his guests, his wives, and his concubines start drinking wine from these holy vessels, all while praising their own idols made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. They were essentially mocking the God of Israel, and that's when things get really strange. In the middle of this drunken celebration, the fingers of a human hand appear out of nowhere and start writing a cryptic message on the palace wall. As you can imagine, the party comes to a screeching halt. Belshazzar is terrified. The Bible says his face turned pale and his knees knocked together. He immediately calls for all his wise men, the magicians, astrologers and diviners, and promises them riches and power if they can read and interpret the writing. But none of them can. They're completely baffled. Then the queen remembers someone who might be able to help. Daniel. Daniel was a man of God who had served under Nebuchadnezzar and was known for his wisdom and ability to interpret dreams. So they bring Daniel in. Belshazzar offers him the same rewards, but Daniel refuses them, saying he'll interpret the writing anyway. He first reminds Belshazzar of how God humbled the proud king Nebuchadnezzar. He points out that Belshazzar knew this story but chose to ignore its lesson. He had defied the Lord of heaven, desecrated his holy vessels, and worshipped lifeless idols instead of honoring the God who held his very life in his hands. Then Daniel reads the writing on the wall, Me, Tekel, Parson. And here is the chilling interpretation. Mimi means God has numbered the days of your kingdom, and